and welcome to this week's video. It's New Year's Eve, the end of 2020. This week's video is going to be about me looking back over the last 12 months and choosing one moment from each of those months that have meant something or that spark fond memories. I'm also going to be asking you to look back over the last 12 months and see what fond memories you can think of. So without further ado, let's begin, and welcome to Part-Time Boater. January 2020, January the 1st to be precise. Now this was a really special day. I was celebrating New Year's with my daughter Mercedes and my partner Peter, and we were on Narrowboat slow roaming at that time. We spent New Year's Eve after dinner doing some painting, and that was my daughter's idea. She came prepared with all the canvases and the paints, and that's what we did. We just painted, had a really lovely time, and then we toasted the new year with champagne. It was lovely. So that was January the 1st, 2020. Little did we know what the year would hold for us, but with more of that later. February marked the visit of my sister to England. She lives in Spain, and we arranged a visit to the boat. I really wanted her to see where I spent part of my time. Well, we parked the car in the car park at Rickmansworth Aquadrome, and we had a lovely time on the boat. We had some food, had some tea, some coffee, whatever. And then at about 8 o'clock, we decided we'd better get going. My sister had to go to the airport the next day. But when we got to the car, we found that the car park was locked. So my sister had an impromptu stay on the narrowboat. It was great. I really enjoyed it. It's what I wanted her to do anyway. But we didn't plan it. So I lent her a nightie and we made up the dinette into a bed, and she had to stay overnight, which was quite interesting. But in the daytime, she had some fun watching Peter feed the swans and the ducks, and she was busy filming on her camera too. It was a lovely visit, needless to say. This brings us to March. Now March 10th is my anniversary with Peter. This year, 2020, we were celebrating 4 years together. And we decided we would go for a drive to St Albans, and we visited St Albans Cathedral and we walked around the town a little bit. The cathedral is an amazing place. Everywhere you look, there's something interesting to see. So that's how we spent the afternoon, and then we found a nice restaurant that we went to in the evening, and we had a lovely meal there. It was very empty by the time we got there because it was about 5 o'clock or 5:30, something like that. It was quite a cold day. But as we were sat there, more and more people started coming in, so I figured it was a fairly popular restaurant to be in. It was lovely. April the 1st is Peter's birthday. However, April the 1st, 2020, everybody was in lockdown and I was on the land, hence my title, Part-Time Boater. I spent part of the time on the land and part of the time on the water with Peter on the narrowboat. This year his birthday was a bit different. It was interesting to say the least. We had a dinner tete-a-tete for two via Zoom. So I was in my house and my daughter very kindly cooked steak for me. Peter was on the boat and he didn't have anyone cooking it for him. He had to cook it for himself. But we both had steak that night and some wine, and it was a lovely evening. We spent about a good 4 or 5 hours just chatting on Zoom. It was amazing. Sometimes I wonder whether we spend that long chatting when we're together, but then it's like that with my family too. I see them and I don't talk to them very much. When we're on the phone, we spend hours and hours. I think it's something to do with just being apart and wanting to catch up and be together. So it was a lovely evening, eating steak and drinking. Now for May, I don't actually have any pictures, but what I realised was I spent 1 week in May doing Video Influence Challenge. And this is what started me off on my YouTube journey, really. I've been wanting to do it for the last 2.5 years, ever since Peter got the boat. But this particular May, I signed up for this and it kick-started me to making my very first narrowboating video. So although I don't have any footage for you for that month, that is the beginning of Part-Time Boater. I just pressed record and got on with it, and I've been doing it ever since. There's one other very special thing that happened in May, apart from me starting Part-Time Boater, and that is the birth of my 4th grandchild. A little baby boy was born to my eldest daughter and her husband, and they have called him Foster. So that was a very lovely thing to happen right in the middle of lockdown, just when I was starting my YouTube channel. Oh, amazing. After several months of lockdown, June was the first time I visited the boat since March. So it was a very exciting time, and I knew we would be socially distancing. And then I went onto the boat. It was pouring with rain, and we had planned a picnic in the grassy park area just opposite the boat, but that really couldn't happen. So I sat on the well deck and chatted with Peter, took some footage for one of my videos, and bearing in mind I started this channel in May, all my videos from May to June were done with footage that I already had from previous narrowboating trips. This was one of the first times, if not the first time, that I was actually on the boat taking footage for the channel. It was exciting. So I sat in the well deck and I took some footage of Peter playing his bandoneon, and it was lovely to listen to him because I hadn't heard him for such a long time. So I was very excited, as you can imagine. Since Peter bought the boat, he has wanted to get it painted, and so in the preceding months he had arranged for a painter, Mike Luby, to take the boat in and to paint the exterior, take it right back to bare metal and to repaint it. Well, July came around and that's when we had to take the boat to Stockton, and that's where the boat was painted. So today I'm coming to pick Peter up from the boat, which is just through there, and the boat's going to go into the painter's boatyard and get a new coat of paint. So here is slow roaming, and it's a momentous day really. This is what it looks like from the outside. And it's going to look all nice and brand new shortly. August, we actually went to the Basingstoke Canal. The Basingstoke Canal doesn't actually reach Basingstoke, but it does go as far as the Greywell Tunnel, and that's where we went. We went in search of the Greywell Tunnel to see where the canal would end and see what was beyond. In fact, it was a closed up tunnel that was beyond. You can't get through it because it is inhabited by bats. Again, there is a video about that, so if you'd like to watch that, I'll again put a link below. But it was a lovely day, and we went for a walk along the canal, and we went up to St John's Castle, and the water was so crystal clear. You could see the undergrowth there in the water, and the reflections were beautiful. So this is us at the entrance to the Greywell Tunnel. We found it. It's really picturesque. What are you doing?
Just helping you point.
So that's what we did in August. So in September we actually went to Reading, and we followed the trail of Oscar Wilde, who was incarcerated in Reading jail. I've done a video about that, so I won't go on about it right now, but it was a lovely day. We had a meal at one of our favourite places, Bell and the Dragon. They have jetties outside the pub, and if you're ever in a narrowboat and you want somewhere to moor up and somewhere to get a really good meal, we recommend Bell and the Dragon. October meant that the boat was nearing completion, and we did go and pick it up, but before we did that, another memorable visit to a canal was to go back to Guildford. We had visited Guildford a couple of years previously when Peter had just picked up the boat, and there were some statues on the canal side near the lock. And on further inspection, we realised it was Alice and her sister reading. Now, if you were to go to that sculpture and actually look over Alice's shoulder and look at the book, you'll see that there are words to Alice in Wonderland printed or carved into the book. It's really lovely. So if you're in Guildford, do go and have a look and see what you can read over Alice's shoulder. And in front of Alice, of course, is the White Rabbit. When we went to Guildford, we had a little wander around the town and met a lovely busker called Seb Gettier, and his music is really very lovely to listen to. I bought his CD and I have it in the car and I play it quite regularly, but if you're ever in Guildford, do look out for him. He does travel the country a bit, but you may be lucky enough to encounter him in Guildford. Now, we did pick up the narrowboat on the 31st of October. However, we started cruising Narrowboat Bandoneon. Notice the name change there? We started cruising Narrowboat Bandoneon on the 2nd of November. When we picked up the narrowboat on the 31st of October, the weather was absolutely atrocious, so we didn't do any cruising then. We did a little bit on the 1st of November just to go a little bit further up the canal, but nothing major. But then on the 2nd, it was the maiden voyage of Narrowboat Bandoneon, and it was absolutely brilliant. We went from the New Boat Inn up to Calcott, the top of Calcott flight of locks, and then I had to walk back from there to where I'd parked the car. But it was a really special time. The boat eventually ended up going through the bridges at Braunston, and that was where I left Peter and Narrowboat Bandoneon to come back onto the land and back home. So that was only last month. We are now in December, and just before Christmas we had made our plans for me to come to the boat and spend Christmas on the boat. My children were all spending Christmas elsewhere and having a really good time, from what I understand, for which I'm very grateful, and I was supposed to come to the boat. Thursday before Christmas, it turned out we were going to go into another lockdown and a tier 4, and I was in tier 2, and Peter, who had been trying to get onto the Kennet and Avon Canal, was stuck on the Thames and had to turn around and get back onto the Grand Union, and it's just as well he did, really. Talk about blessings in disguise. If he had stayed on the Thames even for another few days over Christmas, he would have been stuck there, because just recently all the boards on the Thames were red. Now, somebody asked me what the boards were. It's really just warning signs that you're not allowed to travel. They go from red to amber to green. When it's green, you can travel. When it's amber, it's sort of 50-50. And when it's red, you don't travel. It's not safe. And certainly not for a narrowboat going from the Grand Union onto the Thames. You'd get blown around. It's because the river runs so fast when the boards are red. So Peter turned around and went back onto the Grand Union, travelling the last distance in the dark. I was a bit worried about that, but he got there safely, through the lock at Brentford, moored up overnight, and then started cruising north again. The government relaxed their rules enough, or they didn't relax it, they clarified their rules to say that if you were in a support bubble with someone in a different tier to yourself, then you could travel. And that meant that I could leave tier 2 and come into tier 4 to be with Peter. I'm really glad that I was able to come to the boat for Christmas and New Year. It's been lovely being with Peter. So those are my fond memories of 2020. Look out for the questions on this video asking you what your fond memories are at any given point. I would like to wish you all season's greetings. I'd like to wish you all a happy and above all healthy 2021. And I would like to let you know that I will keep you all in my prayers. Thank you to my subscribers. I have reached over the 100 mark on Boxing Day. I'm really appreciative to all of you for watching my videos and taking time out of your day to spend it watching what I have been doing, and I hope that it brings you a little bit of pleasure. So until next week's video in 2021, until next week, bye.